Hi guys, and as usual, welcome to another kit review. So as you can see by the subject of today's video, we're having a look at a kit from Tamiya, and it is Tamiya's SU-85 Russian tank destroyer. This particular kit that I have here is kit number 89797 and came out in 2010. This one includes Tamiya's weathering master set for Russian tanks, which is just red earth, sand and soot, so you can add a bit of weathering to your basic Russian green. Now the box for this one is, I'll show you on the end here, copyright 1975 Tamiya, which is when the original SU-85 came out, and it is probably the same mold. I don't expect anything yeehaw as far as details are concerned. So yes, it did come out in 75. The original issue number for that was M72. Now Tamiya did re-release this particular kit with the weathering powders and 7 crew figures in 2013, and the kit number for that one was 25110. I've never actually seen that one, but it would be an interesting little kit to pick up if you wanted an instant diorama subject, so to speak. All right, so as you can see, really nice artwork on Tamiya's typical white box. On the side, history of the SU-85 in Japanese. On the other side, 4 of Tamiya's 1970s kits, 3 of which I've made. Don't think I ever made that one. So you got your KB1, your Panzer IV, your Matilda, and your Sherman. All right, so let's have a look. Now this particular kit cost me $15. I have recently seen one for 35 Australian, so I think that would probably be the average price for an SU-85. There's your weathering set, just the 3 powders. Very similar to what girls use to put makeup on, actually, these powders. And that comes in a little hard plastic case. Lower hull, upper hull, vinyl tracks, and these feel like the old style plasticky kind of vinyl tracks. This sprue has, I should say this bag, has the gun mantlet and the front of the SU-85, plus your single crew figure. The wheels, of course, that's pretty obvious. And the back, fuel tanks, etc. And the polycaps for the wheels. So as you can tell, this is a fairly newish kit because it does have the warning about which sprue to use for radio aerials and which one not to. It does have a metal axle because back in the day this probably would have been motorized, or at least you could have made it motorized. And the decal sheet and 2 sets of instructions, one in Japanese and one in English. Yep, just English. All right, so in a second, we'll have a look at the instructions, the decals, and carry on from there. So let's have a look at the instructions for the SU-85. So on the front, this is all in English. It is pretty much a pretty comprehensive history of the SU-85, what it was required for, etc. Overleaf, as you can see, this does have a sprue layout. That's mainly because this is an old Tamiya kit, and old Tamiya kits had sprue layouts. And we start off with putting the wheels together, and then we put the wheels onto the lower hull using the polycaps to keep them in place. Then we've got the upper hull section here. Now, interesting thing about this particular instructions is that everything is in English and German, because this is copyrighted for Tamiya, Germany. So that's an interesting one. Although it doesn't have the history in German, just purely English. Then you're going on to putting on the fuel tanks, etc. onto the upper hull. Fairly straightforward build, of course. A few more bits and pieces, extra fuel tanks, and the front of the SU-85 going on. There's your hatches. Now you can have the hatches open if you want to. Not a problem with that, except there's no interior, so you might as well just close them up. This is your figure. He's actually sitting here in the main hatch. That's your commander figure. So again, no interior, so it's entirely up to you whether you want to pose him like that or just close the hatches up. Spare track links are going on. And then overleaf, you're getting the gun put together. So gun mantlet. There isn't a breech or anything like this. This is the swivel point for the actual gun itself. And then that whole section just gets put onto the front. Fairly straightforward, and tracks go together. That's it. Very simple, 9 steps, very basic kit to put together. And then overleaf, you've got your painting guide. Now, there are no specific units or anything like this in the decals. It is purely, well, it says dark green, but it won't be dark green. It will be Russian green, which is completely different color. So use your internet references to get the right color for that one. It does say here the white stripes were put on tanks heading for Berlin as a clear identification, and you do get one down here, which is this one, which has a Polish emblem on it. So it does say vehicle used by Polish Army, but it doesn't specify where, when, or anything like this. So this is a kind of very basic decal layout for Tamiya. And here you've got something which is always interesting. It shows you how a battalion of SU-85s, etc. were organized. So something like that is always handy to keep. So just an interesting history fact. All right, so that's the instructions. Let's have a look at the decal sheet. And as you can see, these are your numbers. So you can make up whatever number tank you want. These are the white stripes for Berlin vehicles. There's your Polish ones, and 2 white stars, which I think back here it says, it seems the star mark was painted by tank crew. So you can leave those white stars off if you want to. Anyway, I'll give you a shot of these, and then we'll carry on with the rest of it. And before we go, I'll give you another shot of the metal axle. All right, so here's a shot of the decals. Right, so before we start on the actual sprues, let's have a look at the Tamiya Weathering Master for Russian tanks. So, as I said, it's very much like the makeup compacts that your girlfriend, wife, etc. will use. And it even has a brush very similar to that as well. So this is the really nice brush. Very nice brush actually for applying the weathering powders. And the 3 different powders you've got. Very simple, very straightforward. A nice little inclusion. So you've got your red earth, which is this one, your sand, and your soot for exhaust pipes, end of the gun barrel, etc. And you do get an instruction sheet with it in Japanese and also English, telling you how to apply, how to use the sponge, how to clean it off, etc. So you can keep on using it for not just Russian tanks, but just about any tank that you want to. So that is a nice little inclusion if you can pick one of those up in your SU-85 kit. And now we'll have a look at the tracks. which, like I said, are very plastic feeling vinyl. They're very flexible, but they do feel, yeah, interesting feel to them, not the usual vinyl feel. As for accuracy, I couldn't tell you, but this is a 1975 kit, so I don't expect it to be super accurate, but they are quite nice, and it is a reissue, so they are very, very flexible. All right, so I'll give you a shot of that. And next up, we'll have a look at the upper hull. So there's not a great deal of detail, some nice grille work on the back, but of course you do get spare fuel tanks and all sorts of bits and pieces that go on the sides. Not sure if you can see it, but the front mudguards are actually pre-dented in the mold. That's deliberate. They're not supposed to be smooth. It does look like at some point in time, Tamiya's decided to make these look like they have been used, which is a nice touch. Even for a 1975 kit, that's a really good touch. It's a shame modern kits that we get don't have pre-dented mudguards and things like this, because that just adds to the feel that this is a real vehicle that's being used. All right, so that's the upper hull. Like I said, not a great deal to see. Some really nice grille work on the back, but apart from that, not much. All right, so give you a shot of that one. And next up is, of course, the lower hull with its usual holes in it for the screws and the switch for the motor. And I'm not sure if you can see it, the battery position. This is where the motor went. So yes, this is an old kit, and back in 1975, you could motorize this. Tamiya did have, if I remember rightly, they did sell the motors separately, the gearboxes separately, or some of these just came out already with all the fittings and everything in it. So not a great deal of detail. Some nice bolt detail on here, but you won't see that behind the wheel. There's your suspension, etc. for the wheels. As you can see, it's flat, so this thing will sit very, very flat. All right, so I'll give you a shot of those. So the next row out is, as you can see, the wheels. Now, these particular wheels are really nicely done. There is a mold line around the outside of each of these, which will need to be cleaned up, but really nice detail on the wheels and the tires. Nicely done and very sharp, remembering that this is a 1975 kit. In actual fact, this particular sprue, if I can get it in focus for you, is copyrighted 1974. And on the other side, this will show you where the origins are. If I can get it to focus, there you go. T34 76 1942. So this SU-85 has the hull and running gear from a T34 76 from 1974 in Tamiya. So it is an old mold, but it is very sharp, very nicely done, and very clean. And that's what I like. So I'll give you some close-up shots of the wheels, and then we'll carry on from there. And while we're talking wheels, here are your polycaps. So a couple of these polycaps you don't use, but these are what keeps the wheels on the lower hull. So yes, that was a motorized kit, and these polycaps would allow the wheels to go around. So really nicely done. and an easy way to attach the wheels after you've painted the lower hull and everything, because these don't glue on, they just push on. So the next sprue we'll have a look at is this one. So this, of course, as you can see, is the front of the hull, and this is the top section here with the main hatches. There's your commander figure and various other fittings with hatches, etc. So no interior, so I would probably have this all sealed up because there's nothing to see unless you want to pose your commander figure somehow inside, looking out through the driver's hatch. So let's have a look at that figure. So fairly plain face. It is an old mold, but still sharp. There is a bit of flash on the figure, which is nothing unusual about that, having flash on figures. But he will actually paint up quite well. No, there's just, the problem is you do have a mold line that runs down the middle of his face. So you will have to deal with that, unfortunately. But apart from that, really nice detail on the figure. Let's have a look at the front. So no kind of armor texture or anything like this. So you may want to have a look at your internet references for the SU-85 as to whether it had a texture, because a lot of Russian tanks did have texture. Their steel was quite roughly made in the factories, so that might be something to have a look at. Or if you're not really bothered, then this will paint up really nicely well. Okay, so I'll give you some shots of this sprue, and then we'll carry on. So next sprue out is, as you can see, the gun mantlet, the gun barrel, one of the spare fuel tanks, track lints, etc. So it is a one-piece gun barrel. With that, there is the end of the barrel. So it is just literally going to be a case of matching that up with this point here, making sure it's all nice and straight. Should be fine. These are your swivel points for the gun, your gun mantlet, the really nice bolt detail which will come out with a nice wash. That's just a spare tarpaulin, spare track link, and pre-dented, and it is pre-dented, spare fuel tank with your spade, of course. So really nice, very easy, simple kit to put together, this one. There's not much to it. This will definitely be a really nice weekend build, I think. So, some shots of that for you. And the last sprue out is this one. So as you can see, this is the back of the SU-85. You've got some hatch details, etc. These are your tow cables. These are your grab handles that go on the side, and of course more spare fuel tanks. So let's have a look. So you could get some probably aftermarket tow cables for this. Sometimes I've found in the past that when it comes to bending these, they'll either snap, or if you bend them over a low flame or something like this, they may just bend or twist in the wrong way. Really nice grill work on that. I'm not sure if you can see that. Really nice grill work on the back section. There's your back of the hull with some really nice bolts. Some air vents. There is your pre-dented spare fuel tanks, and they've all got dents in them, and I do like the idea that they've done that. Spare track links and grab handles, which a lot of Russian tanks, especially tank destroyers, etc., had on the outside, so that the crew could get in and out easily, but also so that supporting infantry had something to grab onto when they were traveling with the tank. All right, and that is the last sprue for this particular kit. And there you have it, guys. That is Tamiya's Russian tank destroyer, SU-85. Kit number 89797, came out in 2010 with the Weathering Master set included. Still available today, has been an ongoing issue by Tamiya since it first came out in 1975, so pretty sure you can pick one of these up fairly cheap like I did. Like I said, this one only cost me $15, so really happy with that one. Not a bad little kit. Definitely a weekender. You put this together in, an hour or two at the most, and then paint her up in Russian green, and then spend the rest of the weekend weathering her and making her look good. All right, so as I said, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Hope you got something from it. And as usual, guys, thank you for your likes and your comments and your subscriptions. They are always appreciated. And also, as usual, guys, until next time, take it easy, stay safe, and I will see you later.